Lockie Marsh back with another video. Today we're going to be going over pros and cons of F45 training. So if you haven't heard of F45 at all, it's basically just functional HIIT training in a group style setting. It's quite a popular system that was started up by an Aussie and then it's gone global. And I always say it's like the McDonald's of fitness because they are everywhere. You'll find next to a Domino's, you'll find it next to your yoga studio, you'll find it next to your supermarket. Like they're everywhere. They're everywhere. I've been working there for 2 years now. I'm working at 2 clubs at the moment, so I've got a little bit of insight of how the cogs turn. So I'm going to give pros and cons in terms from a client's perspective and from a trainer's perspective. So if you are looking to work at an F45, this would be a good video for you, as I'll just give you some heads up of my opinion of how F45 runs. Of course, different F45 studios are run by different people, or one person might own maybe 2 or 3. So they all kind of depend on how the owner runs things. So I'm just going based off what I've seen from the 2 clubs I'm at. The 2 clubs are very different of how they are managed, I will say. One's very laid back and one is very, very dialed in. So we're going to start off with the positives first of F45 training. So first positive is it's quite a beginner-friendly style of training in that anyone from any level can join, especially if you are a beginner. It's less daunting than going into a massive gym or a public gym like a Good Life or an Anytime Fitness like we've got here in Australia. So it's good in that sense. As well as the workouts, most of them can be quite easy to follow as well. So the trainer can easily walk through the first lap with that client, and then by the first lap, they've already got the gist of it. So it's quite a beginner-friendly program for the most part. Second positive is it always runs on 45 minutes. So it kind of says it in the name, F45, 45 minutes of actual training. Reason why it's good that it sticks to the 45-minute timing is that a lot of people that come to F45 are either nurses, they work in the city. The fact that they know that it's going to go for 45 minutes, they can get in there, they can get a good workout in for 45, feel like, they've done a bit of work, they've done some exertion, and they can leave there quite happy. So the fact that it runs for 45 minutes, doesn't run any earlier or later, tends to fit a bit nicely into people's schedules. Third positive is the wide range of equipment that most clubs have for the clients to use. So a positive why having lots of equipment is that it gives variety to the workouts. A lot of the time, the good thing, another side positive thing about F45 is that they constantly change the workout program every month, so that it doesn't get too stale for the clients. And going back to the equipment, because of new workouts, new movements, and then new movements, people don't get sick of that same stimulus, right? Like they can hit that same muscle group, but doing it in a different movement that they might find a bit better than what they did last week. So it just keeps it nice and fresh. Okay, I'm just gonna have a sip. It's 36 in Melbourne, Victoria at the moment, so it is hot as balls. But we move on to the cons, aka negatives of F45 training. First one on my notes is that the exercise/workouts that they can schedule can be quite questionable. What do I mean by this? So with exercise selection, when you go into a F45 studio, the workout that they set, they also set the exercises. Of course, the trainer can change exercises, but initially some of the exercises that they set shouldn't even be exercises. Sometimes they join 2 exercises in one, where it's probably better just to have them as 2 separate. An example of this was Tuesday this week. We had an exercise on our weights day, being a reverse lunge into a lateral raise. Now, the problem with that is that you'll need to use a weight. You need to use a weight that you usually use for your lateral raise, because if you go too heavy, then the lateral raise will just become too difficult. So, to be honest, I don't feel like you reap the benefits as much when you join two exercises together. Whereas if you have them separate, you can go a little bit heavier on those reverse lunges because your legs are generally a bigger, you know, your legs have bigger muscle groups that they recruit for the exercise. So bigger muscles meaning that they generate more power and more strength. So that way you can move more weight. Whereas with the lateral raise, you're just focusing on your side delts. So naturally you're going to use lighter weight. By adding two exercises together, it just complicates it a bit more. And I feel like from a client's perspective, you're not getting the most out of it. Another side note about exercise selection is that some exercises that they set as well are just not good in general. For example, on a Thursday where it's purely weights, they might set on station 7 tricep dips on the softbox. Now, with the tricep dip, it is quite an easy exercise to set up, but you have to focus on the pros and cons as a trainer from a client's perspective. So look at the tricep dip, right? They're putting their shoulders at in a impinging position at the bottom half of the movement. Your rotator cuffs, they are in they're in a bad position there. It's just not good for your shoulder joint to have that much extension at the shoulder joint. So from a trainer's perspective, you got to look at the end of the day, you got to weigh up the pros and cons of the exercise. So instead, I'll set tricep extensions with the barbell. That way, they're not going as far down. That way they're safely able to work in that range of motion that is most comfortable for most people doing it. And I reckon they just get a better contraction at the triceps in general. So some of the exercises that they do set are a bit iffy. So just keeping that in mind as well. Yeah. All right, guys. Another negative about F45 is that when you have a group class, there's a lot of variables because you got so many people that might have different tweaks. Like they might have a dodgy knee, or they might have one rotator cuff that's a little bit dodgy. So some movements they can't really do 100% of the time. So it's just a lot of variables that you have to control as a trainer in a group setting, which does make it a little bit harder on the trainers. But I mean, once you've been doing it for a while and you see those same clients over and over again, you will remember, like, oh, Stacy's got a dodgy knee, we'll change some exercises. Or David, who might have some lower back pain, we might get him to do some chest supported rows. Like, you'll find that the same people will come in and you'll know how to regress or progress exercises based on the client's level or what they've just got going on. Another negative is that if you really want to build, if you want to focus on resistance training with weights, F45 is not the option for you. You might reap the benefits of resistance training with F45 a little bit. For the most part, it's mostly cardio with weights. So just keeping that in mind about that. Second con is there is a high turnover rate of trainers. Now, I only see this I've only started work at my second club, but I know at my other club that I first started at, there is a lot of turnover of trainers. The problem with that is, like, from a client's perspective, you don't get to really gel with the trainer. And I reckon 50% or 50 to 60% of why clients stay is because of the trainer and they connect with the trainer. So the fact that trainers are constantly getting churned it doesn't allow the client to establish that kind of connection with the trainer, which then translates to high client turnover rate, and they don't stay for as long as they should. So, and also with high turnover of trainers is because it's the luck of the draw with F45 trainers. The trap with F45, and this is a little side con as well, I'm going to go off on a tangent here, is because the exercises are on the screen, you are more inclined to take a back seat as a trainer, meaning that they've got the cues up there. I don't need to worry about watching their form because it's up on the TV. They can't stuff it up. Trust me, they're going to stuff it up either way, especially when you're adding two movements in one. They're going to stuff it up. So it's a common trap that a lot of trainers fall into, and I've fallen into myself when I first started at 45. You take a back seat, and then clients will tell. Clients will know if you're taking a back seat and you're not being engaging and, you know, checking in on them, checking in on their form, constantly giving cues, refreshers. That was a little tangent there, but yeah. All right, last negative for F45 training is the technique training. So what I mean by that is that making sure clients are doing the right technique for exercises, especially on weight days. Because you got a timer on the screen, when you think about it from a client's perspective, they've got a timer, they've got 60 seconds, and they're like, well, shit, okay, I've got to try and punch out as many reps as they can. So technique kind of just goes out the door for them. So, and as a trainer, when you're trying to do technique training, especially for beginners, they're not going to get it within 45 seconds. Like, it's just not going to happen. So by the time they get the right technique, the timer goes off, beep, go to the next station. And then, you know, then those cues and what you've just taught them just goes right over their head. So from a techniques perspective of learning the key movements, it's a little bit tricky. So from a training perspective, you're not going to have as much time to dedicate to each client because, you know, they're on a timer, of course, and teaching someone how to deadlift within 45 seconds is doable. You can do it. But if it's a real beginner and they're not understanding it, it's going to be hard to try and teach them that movement. So, couple of cons, couple of pros. I'm not saying F45 is a shit training system and you shouldn't touch it. I reckon it's very good when you find a good club. It comes down to the people that run it, in my opinion. The people that run it and the trainers that they hire determines if that F45 studio is really good. F45ing, I know it kind of has a cult mentality, you know, but I swear to God, you know, they don't wear hoods or anything, okay? But I can see why you might think that. So, but yeah, no hate on F45. I love it. People that I've worked for, they've treated me really well. The people I've met when I've worked at F45 are really nice people. Absolute guns. So yeah, if you think of doing F45, I highly recommend giving it a crack because that's what it's all about, right? Giving it a crack because you don't know till you try. So yeah, quick little video here today. Hope you enjoyed it. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace. Oh my God, so sweaty.